Always a difficult moment as we, as always, remember those that are gone, but never forgotten. And, of course, the good friends in that beautiful memory video. Excuse me while I put my teeth in. Would, of course, be urging us all on to crack on with our business, wouldn't they just? So we'll just take a wee moment, and if the speakers for Resolution 12 on anti-racism education just gather themselves and gather their thoughts. Counts. 12. Okay, thank you for your patience. Could I invite Councillor Barrera, who is going to move Resolution 12, and the Councillor will be followed by Sumita Kumar, who will second. So welcome to the stage, Councillor Oxy Barrera, please.
That was quite emotional. Anyway, let's go back to business. Conference, I believe I speak on behalf of many migrants in Scotland when I say thank you. Thank you for welcoming us, for letting us make your country our home, for letting us feel and be Scottish. Scotland is known worldwide for its breathtaking scenery, one people, whiskey, literature, music, politics, not so much about the weather and midges. At its heart, Scotland is a welcoming nation and a place where people from around the globe choose to settle. But for too many young people, racism is still a daily reality in Scotland. Reports from the Children and Young People's Commissioner and the Coalition for Racial Equality and Rights shows that racism continues to affect pupils in classrooms, playgrounds, and communities. Young people speak on racist language, bullying, and microaggressions that are all too common. The rise of harmful narratives online and the growing confidence of the far right now only makes this worse. We see this right now in here, particularly in Falkirk. At the moment, far-right groups are targeting migrants, even those, the so-called legal migrants. But we are seeing this across Scotland and the UK, not only in Falkirk. When misinformation is spread unchecked, it fuels prejudice, and people with different skin tones and accents become targets. Conference, the need is urgent. A BBC investigation revealed a 50% increase in recorded racist incidents in Scottish schools between 2022 and 2024, rising from 2,400 to 3,600. Many incidents still go unreported because pupils and their families fear they won't be taken seriously. The true number is undoubtedly higher. However, some progress has been made. The Building Racial Literacy programme is available to teachers, and the Scottish Government has introduced a national anti-racism framework for initial teacher education. But these remain voluntary and focus on new teachers, leaving a gap for those already in the profession. Racism doesn't just happen in classrooms. It happens in playgrounds, on buses, in youth clubs, in care settings. Every adult working with young people has a role to play, yet not everyone has the tools or the confidence to intervene. That is why this motion matters. it calls for the Scottish Government to make anti-racism training, like building literacy mandatory for building racial literacy, mandatory for all staff who work with young people, with regular refreshers to ensure confidence and consistency. This isn't about adding pressure to overstretched staff. It's about giving them the skills and confidence to challenge racism when they see it, and ensuring no child is left unprotected because who was on duty that day. Colleagues, racism undermines children's well-being, learning, and confidence. It damages communities and contradicts our values as a nation. By making anti-racism training mandatory, we take a practical step toward ensuring every young person in Scotland grows up in an environment that is safe, inclusive, and fair. Conference, I urge you to support this motion and send a clear message that Scotland will continue to lead on equality, dignity, and human rights for all our young people and not so young. Thank you.
Very well done, Roxy. And again, it was remiss of me, I didn't highlight that Roxy is a first-time speaker. And it gives me great pleasure if I can invite Samita Kumar onto the stage, who is our wonderful candidate for Edinburgh South.
Thank you, Convener. Conference, I am deeply proud to second this motion. Earlier, we saw a moving memorial tribute. I'd like to add one more name to that list, Sir Geoff Palmer. Yes. Sir Palmer was Scotland's first black professor and an independent supporter, a man who arrived here as part of the Windrush generation just at 14 years old. A man who faced immense racism, yet met it always with patience, with dignity, and education. Sir Geoff taught us that understanding our history of slavery, of colonialism, of inequality, it's not about guilt, it's about growth. It's about building a fairer future. Conference, young people are still growing up hearing racism in classrooms and corridors. Young people are being told to go back home. They're being mocked for their accents or skin color, while their parents are accused of taking jobs. These words echo what they see online, what they hear in the media, and it causes real harm. They isolate, they silence, they make children doubt their worth. To be honest, it makes me doubt my worth, and they have no place in Scotland. But racism isn't only about cruel words or overt acts. It's also about the quiet assumptions, the lowered expectations, the stereotypes, and the missed opportunities. When these go unchallenged, they become normalized. And when they become normalized, they corrode the very values Scotland stands for: fairness, respect, and belonging. We already require training on safeguarding, so why not anti-racism in education? This too is safeguarding. Mandatory anti-racism training is not a tick box exercise, it's about reflection, honesty, and courage. Racism doesn't stop at the school gates, and neither should our responsibility to challenge it. Conference, we also must be honest about the climate we are in, unfortunately. Across the UK and beyond, we see the politics of division, where parties like Reform sow fear, and that is also paraded by both the red and the blue Tories, who echo their rhetoric instead of standing up for compassion and truth. When leaders choose silence or choose scapegoating, young people notice. They absorb those messages about who belongs and, sadly, who doesn't belong. That is why education matters, because it shapes the next generation, not to inherit our prejudices, but to overcome them, to learn empathy, not hatred, curiosity, not fear, and we need consistent action. This motion is that step, practical, powerful, and urgent. It says every adult who shapes young lives should have the tools and confidence to make anti-racism real. Not theoretical, not occasional, but everyday practice. By doing this, we protect young people from harm and build the Scotland we want to see. A Scotland that stands tall against hate, that leads with courage and compassion. Conference, let's turn our values into action. Let's choose inclusion over intolerance, hope over hate, leadership over silence. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Conference, there are no cards against Resolution 12 on anti-racism education. Can I put it to you that we accept this resolution by acclaim? Right, Conference, thanks to your tardy chair here, we are going to have to pick up the pace a wee bit. So if I can invite Councillor Rosemary Fraser to come and speak to Resolution 13. I'm going to have to ask people to be quite strict with themselves over timings, and if Rosemary could be briefly seconded by Councillor Bell, please. Rosemary.
Thank you, Conference. When Scotland became the first country in the UK to ban smoking in public places, we sent a clear message that the health of our people matters more than the profits of big tobacco. Today we face a new challenge, one that demands the same clarity of purpose, because just as smoking once crept into every corner of our society, vaping is now being sold, packaged and pushed in ways that target the most vulnerable, our young people and people living in the areas with highest levels of deprivation. Let's be clear, vaping is not harmless, it's not just water vapour, and it's certainly not a lifestyle choice. It's an industry that has learned every trick from the tobacco giants it claims to have replaced. Not a surprise, given the fourth largest e-cigarette producers are Philip Morris International or Marlboro fame, American Tobacco, Japan Tobacco and Imperial Tobacco. The tobacco giants replacing cigarette addiction with e-cigarette addiction. Across Scotland, we're seeing a worrying rise in youth vaping. According to the 2023 Scottish Schools Adolescent Lifestyle and Substance Use Survey, nearly 1 in 5 15-year-olds reported regular or occasional vaping. That's more than double the rate from just a few years ago. And of those young vapers, 30% go on to smoke. We're encouraging another health ticking time bomb. Make no mistake, nicotine is a powerful addictive substance. It affects brain development in teenagers and can impair memory, concentration and mental health. And while vapes may contain fewer harmful chemicals than cigarettes, we still don't fully understand the long-term health effects of inhaling these substances daily. Emerging research links vaping to lung injury, increased respiratory symptoms and higher risk of cardiovascular issues. We're not solving a problem, we're simply reshaping it. Advertising plays a huge role in shaping behaviour. It normalises vaping, it glamorises it, and it disguises the risks. That's why we must take bold action. We banned cigarette advertising for a reason, because we knew that marketing works, and the more you normalise addiction, the more people start. So let's not kid ourselves that same glossy vape ads are about helping adults to quit smoking. If that were true, they wouldn't be plastered on social media feeds, shop windows and near our schools. This is not about harm reduction, it's about profit. And if we want to be a nation that leads on public health, we cannot allow that to continue. That's why we need to take this next step in our journey to a smoke-free Scotland. We need to ban the advertising and marketing of vapes in Scotland, just as we did with tobacco. Get these e-cigarettes behind the shutters along with cigarettes. This measure will ensure that vaping products cannot be glamorised or promoted in ways that appeal to children or non-smokers. We know prevention is better than cure. We have a health service that's stretched the seams, and no more so because we continue to deal with the effects of smooth marketing of cigarettes. Even now, according to Ash Scotland, smoking-related diseases account for 20% of deaths in Scotland. It's cost our NHS billions in care costs and led to thousands upon thousands of early preventable deaths that have affected our families, friends and communities. Conference, let's not get ourselves into the same boat again in the next 40 years. Let's take a stand. Scotland has always led where others have followed. Who would have thought New York, Ireland and Scotland would be the first places to ban smoking? We've been first on smoke-free spaces, first on minimum unit pricing for alcohol, and first to put the well-being of our people at the heart of government. So let Scotland lead again. Let's stand together for a Scotland where health is not compromised for profit. Let's act on this now and put the well-being of our young people and our nation first. Please support the motion. Thank you.
And can I invite Councillor Julie Bell, please, to second Resolution 13. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Prior to being elected, I was the tobacco control lead for Angus Council and the partnership in the area, and I'm very privileged at the moment to be a COSLA appointee to the Board of Public Health Scotland, so this is a matter very dear to my heart. We know that e-cigarettes can be a useful tool to help people stop smoking, but they're not intended as a permanent replacement, and they're not advised for people who have never smoked. Yet it's not uncommon to see people who vape who have never had a cigarette in their lives. And that applies especially to young people. And they are inclined, from research that we've done in Angus, to skip tobacco completely and go straight to illicit drugs. If we in Scotland are truly serious about raising a tobacco-free generation by 2034, which is only 9 years away, there's much more that we can do. So banning advertising is very much part of that, but there are other actions that we can take with tools and instruments that we have available. And I would urge you, especially if you're an elected representative, a minister, or sit on any of the COSLA policy boards, to bear this in mind. Survey data from NASUWT, which is a UK-wide teachers' union, is reporting significant issues in school settings. 52% of teachers have observed an increase in pupil vaping in the previous year. 62% of teachers report students frequently leave lessons to vape. 40% of respondents said pupils are misusing tobacco-free nicotine pouches in school. Nicotine affects pupil concentration. So this is my view, and it's the view of some of my Public Health Scotland colleagues, that we can do more. We could increase the price of both tobacco and vapes. Minimum unit pricings worked for alcohol, so let's make it more financially unaffordable. We could restrict the availability of products. Licensing retailers is another area that we could do. And we could learn from gambling industry, which has generated £100 million last year through a levy for prevention, treatment and research on gambling harm. Why couldn't we do that with tobacco? So, Conference, I urge you to back this resolution. Thank you.
Rosemary, thank you very much. Conference, there are no cards against this resolution. Can I put it to you that we accept Resolution 13 by acclaim? And Resolution 14, and I see that Stephen Campbell is already making his way to the stage. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen is going to move the motion, and he is representative of Young Scots for Independence and is the convener. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Conference. Conference, there's a phone number that many of us who work in the NHS have drilled into us, 2222. That is our internal emergency number. When the operator picks up, there are 3 words that you might find yourself saying: adult, or God forbid, child, cardiac arrest. This triggers an emergency response throughout the hospital that will have a whole medical team with the patient within minutes. For those of you who don't know, a cardiac arrest is essentially when the heart stops beating in a way that is compatible with life. It's pretty much the biggest medical emergency that can happen. Without our hearts pumping, oxygen is no longer being moved around our bodies. Our cells and organs become starved of oxygen, and if effective medical interventions, for example chest compressions, are not started within minutes, then the patient will die. In the hospital, we have access to all sorts of resources to help us during a cardiac arrest. Highly trained nurses and doctors, drugs such as adrenaline, high-flow oxygen, and specialist equipment such as a defibrillator, or defib for short. For those of you who don't know, a defib is essentially a fairly small box that has sticky paddles that can be attached to somebody's chest. It delivers an electric shock through these paddles to the heart to try and restore a normal heartbeat. It's often crucial for survival. However, defibs are often not used in out-of-hospital cardiac arrests. There are a variety of reasons for this, but perhaps one of the most common ones is simply that there are no publicly available defibs nearby. It's commonplace that we'll see them in places like shopping centres, gyms, and various locations in busy city centres. And if you have to phone 999, the call operators will probably tell you where the nearest one is. But many places still do not have one. Many workplaces, educational facilities, and community settings, for example. We often associate cardiac arrest with elderly people, but that is not always the case. Having been a student nurse for over a year now, and hopefully qualifying next year if everything goes well, I've heard of or directly seen a number of patients who've suffered from a cardiac arrest in their 40s, 30s, 20s, even in their late teens. Some of you may remember a few years ago, a Danish football player in his late 20s suffered a cardiac arrest during a match at the Euros, and his life was saved thanks to rapid commencement of CPR and the use of a defib. And that brings us back to the whole point of the resolution. Cardiac arrest survival rates, whatever your age, are significantly improved with rapid use of a defibrillator, but they are often not used in an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, with lack of access being one of, if not the most significant factor. This resolution seeks to help improve public access by suggesting actions that governments across different levels can take. Looking at workplaces, for example, there are strict health and safety regulations that workplaces need to follow relating to health and safety, and first aid, including the legal requirement of a certain proportion of first aid trained staff and the availability of a first aid box. Defib training is part of that, but the provision of a defib actually is not, and this resolution is calling for change to that. It also recognises, however, that funding can pose a challenge. Defibs often cost hundreds of pounds at a minimum, and VAT, which adds 20% to the cost, is removed in certain circumstances, but this resolution calls for VAT to be removed entirely. Thank you. Even with this, there would still be financial barriers to some community groups, grassroots sports teams, smaller workplaces, for example. There are some excellent charities, such as the British Heart Foundation, who are here today, who can provide funding, but this sort of thing should not be left solely to charities. That's why this resolution also calls for more direct funding to be made available from government to organisations for those who need it. To wrap up, all of this is to help with the core reason of the resolution, to increase the availability of defibrillators and ultimately to save lives. Conference, as a student nurse and as someone who cares deeply about saving lives, I urge you to support this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And can I invite Sadie Matthews to the stage, please? Sadie is going to second resolution 14.
I won't take 3 minutes, I promise. I think Stephen's perspective on this topic is incredibly important because he sees the real consequences of what a lack of access to defibrillators in private and public spaces can lead to. And in some circumstances, that is a positive outcome, but not all. And if there's anything that we can do to increase the chances of survivability, I think it's our duty to do so. I was admittedly confused by this resolution when it was brought to the YSI conference because I thought it was calling for both the training and the equipment. That is not correct. And after speaking with Stephen, the training is mandatory, but there is no recommendation, well, it is a recommendation, but there's no requirement for them to have the equipment on hand. So people who are first aid trained in these public and private spaces know how to use this life-saving equipment, but are not provided with it. And at the time, and it still does to be honest, that absolutely bamboozled me. I felt it was important for me to talk on this subject because after looking into further statistics, people from most deprived areas are less likely to survive a cardiac arrest whilst being more susceptible to one. People who are from these deprived areas often rely on community centres, and should they be provided with this life-saving equipment, it will increase the survivability within those deprived areas and help support people. Similarly, women are more likely to not survive a cardiac arrest. This can be because our symptoms are vastly different from that of men, but also because people are uncertain as to what to do because of the minor difference in anatomy. But all that really matters is that we all have a heart, and God forbid, one day it could fail us, and we might need to rely on this life-saving equipment. So I strongly encourage you to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie. As always, beautifully succinct. Right, colleagues, there are no cards in against Resolution 14, so can I put it to you all that we pass this by acclaim, please? Okay, so we're now moving on to Resolution 15, which is Accessible Music and Creative Arts Education Pathway. I'm going to invite Magnus Turpey onto the stage. Marcus is the mover of this motion. And he's going to communicate to us in a way that makes the point about the motion very aptly. Hello, Magnus. Welcome.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you. I'm just going to make sure the tech's right.
Yeah.
And the microphones are all sorted and ready for you, Magnus.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, just in your own time.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I'm Agnes Tuppy. I'm a musician. I am the entertainer. I have the Down syndrome, and I'm 26 years old. I want to be able to study music at the college, work as a musician in Scotland. We are expected to treat everyone properly with respect, and people with my condition are still discriminated against based on our appearance, and we're disfiguredly treated as children. I didn't have a chance to make musical friends, and school is hard to find people play music with. I want Scotland to be a country where people are not disabled by social barriers, excluding and discriminating against us, where everyone has equal helps each other. I am enjoying the freedoms and practicing independence and travel by contrast. Last year, I was asking to bring support worker to audit to a college course and playing music. I believe that coming with a support person wouldn't help me, but I would only save the staff from having to help me to integrate with my peers. I didn't want to be different from other students, but be treated the same. This attitude needs to find change urgently at the source from a grassroots education right through all Scottish community. Thank you.
Well, I pity any speaker that now has to come on and follow that. Magnus, you are an absolute superstar. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gents. But we do, of course, have another speaker, and that is Vicky Nicholson, who is the seconder to Resolution 15. Welcome, Vicky.
Thank you, Chair. Conference. Firstly, thank you so much to Magnus and his mum, Linda, and his dad, Michael, for letting me be part of their lives and letting me see the reality of how tenacious and determined they have to be every day. Magnus and I are not just here to talk about legislation, but we're here to reflect on values, on the kind of society we want to build, a society that sees every individual, hears every voice and values every life. And that's why I want to commend the Scottish National Party for its commitment to the learning disability, autism and neurodivergence and human rights bills. These initiatives are more than just political commitments, they are moral imperatives. Too often, people with learning disabilities, autism or other forms of neurodivergence have been left behind. And not because they lack potential, but because the systems around them failed to see that potential. The draft bill makes clear that that era must come to an end. We welcome this proposed statutory change to rights, the drive to tailor education to the individual and not the other way round, These are steps forward that echo what so many families, advocates and individuals have fought for, often for far too long. But we can't stop there. If we truly believe in equality and dignity for all, then we must recognise that education is not a one-size-fits-all. An inclusive education system is not just about providing the same opportunities to everybody. It's about providing the right opportunities, the meaningful ones, the ones that recognise each person's unique voice. And that is why we recommend the inclusion of a music and creative arts pathway in forthcoming legislation. Because the arts are not just extracurricular, they're transformational. They open doors to communication, to self-expression, to confidence and to community. Music, drama, dance, these are not luxuries. For many, they are lifelines. They are how individuals connect with the world and how the world in turn connects with them. Let's be clear, conference. This is not just about the pursuit of academic excellence. It's about building a society that's rooted in mutual respect, understanding and belonging. So let's ensure this education doesn't just break down barriers, but it builds bridges. Let's commit to a future where every child, every learner and every person with a disability, a neurodivergence, knows that their voice matters, that their gifts are celebrated and that their rights are protected. Because that's not just good policy, it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Well done, Vicky. Well, thank you very much to Magnus and Vicky. There are no cards in against Resolution 15. I think there'd be a riot if there was. So can I put it to you, Conference, that we accept Resolution 15 by acclaim? And many congratulations to Magnus and Vicky. We hope to see you again at Conference. So before you can all leave for lunch, we've got one more very important resolution to do, and I will invite Michael Gibbons to the stage for Resolution 16. Michael will move this, and it will be seconded by Erin Lux. So, 5 or 6 minutes. Over to you, Michael.
How to follow that? That was incredible. Thank you, Vicky and Magnus. Good morning, friends, and my thanks to the Conference Committee for allowing this important resolution on improving the lives of neurodivergent people here to be discussed today. I should preface, I don't have ADHD and I'm not autistic. I'm just a dyslexic who got diagnosed in S2 by a sound guidance teacher. That early diagnosis meant I got the support to achieve an amazing job, and I'm about to graduate my Master's in Health Policy at the end of the year. This resolution has come from the experiences of many of my peers who have gone through the system as adults. This is in their name and their honour. The past few years have shone a spotlight on an issue long too neglected. It's an issue I know has flooded the inboxes of parliamentarians for years. For adults in health boards for which data exists, the waiting lists have grown by over 2,200%. That's from 543 to 12,974 in some combined health boards between 2020 and 2025. Remote learning, lockdown and changes to daily life revealed what many were already living with silently, the traits of ADHD and autism, too often unrecognised, particularly in women and people of colour who slip through the cracks of child services. But while awareness has grown, support has not kept pace. In fact, it has regressed under demand. Many people now wait years for assessment and more years for support. In some health boards, adult ADHD services don't exist or have been disbanded altogether. Imagine what that means for individuals affected, struggling at work or in education, battling poor mental health and being left without answers. This is not only unjust, it is harmful to them, to their development and our capacity as a nation. Friends, I want to be clear, ADHD and autism are not mental health disorders, but the stigma and discrimination attached to them mean that neurodivergent people are more likely to suffer from mental ill health. Friends, this also means tackling the stark inequalities in access across Scotland. At present, where a person can live can determine whether they have access to an assessment, forcing many to go privately or without support altogether. Even those who do go private often see their bridging subscriptions blocked or subject to the same weight as everybody else. This postcode lottery means that where someone lives can determine where they can receive recognition and support, widening existing socioeconomic and health inequalities. The consequences reach far beyond fairness. Undiagnosed adults often underperform relative to their potential, experiencing higher rates of job turnover, absenteeism, and burnout. These lost opportunities carry measurable economic costs for individuals, families, and the wider economy. This is a public health issue, and its impact is profound. Evidence shows that neurodivergent adults face shorter life expectancy and higher rates of unrecognised or untreated health conditions. Diagnostic overshadowing and barriers to communication within healthcare mean that many serious issues go unnoticed until they become critical. Addressing these inequities is not only a matter of social justice, but a necessary investment in Scotland's health, workforce and long-term well-being. There are bright spots, and I'll commend to the last Minister for Mental Health, Marie Todd, MSP. The Scottish Government has shown leadership with initiatives like the Autistic Adult Support Fund, the Autism in Schools Framework and the National Autism Implementation Team. And after hearing from Tom Arthur, the MSP, this morning, I extend that commendation to him for his leadership and the knowledge that the LDAN bill will be moved forward in the next Parliament. These efforts are helping, but they are isolated and not enough. The reach is limited, and without a consistent, joined-up pathway, too many people remain unsupported. Conference, I'm getting a red light here, so I'm guessing I need to get off the stage. This resolution is an opportunity to stand with neurodivergent people and say your needs are valid, your voices are heard, and your futures matter. I urge Conference to support this resolution. Let's commit to building a Scotland where neurodivergence is recognised, supported, and celebrated. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And can I invite Erin Lux to the stage, please?
2 minutes, Erin. 2 minutes. Okay. Hi again. You'll be sick of me by the end of the day because I've got another one going this afternoon. But hi, I'm Erin, and I'm speaking today from lived experience as one of the very lucky people who actually did get diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. Very lucky to live in a health board area that actually does have a pathway for adults. Many don't. And that diagnosis has been life-changing. So I'd suspected something was wrong basically all my life, but first tried to get diagnosed in 2016. After going through a process of referrals, I was eventually told, well, you made it to a postgrad, so really there can't be anything wrong with you. And then by 2021, I had really reached a point of crisis, and it took being in absolute mental health crisis to even be able to get a referral. And from that point of crisis, it was over a year's wait before I was assessed. And after the assessment, at least in Glasgow anyway, you have to wait again because the assessment service and the treatment service are separate. So then you get put at the back of the waiting list for the community mental health team, and you need to get to the front of that to get treatment after you've been assessed. So I was diagnosed with severe combined type ADHD. A friend jokes that it's not so much in HD as 4K, the level of severity that I have. So I was, again, very, very lucky to get diagnosed, and getting treatment has changed my life. I went from being in a mental health crisis to having a high-profile job in my field, from not being able to progress in my academic work to having handed in a full draft of my PhD to my supervisor just a few months ago. Thank you. But I am really one of the very, very lucky ones to even be standing here right now. People with ADHD, especially late diagnosed women, have shortened lifespans with a higher risk of early death due to suicide, accidental deaths, and to difficulty in accessing healthcare. Effective treatment with stimulant medication has been shown to improve lifespans of people with ADHD by an average of 7 years. And so this is not just a matter of improving lives the way it has mine, but a matter of saving lives. There's much we can do to improve the lives of neurodivergent people, speeding up, throughout society with greater awareness and acceptance, everything that Michael mentioned in his speech, everything that's been talked about in terms of supporting people in schools. But it remains the case for ADHD that the effective treatment is stimulant medication, which is a controlled drug. We can only access that with diagnosis. So everything else we can do in terms of the LDAN bill and supporting people and greater awareness is great, but if we can't improve diagnostic pathways, we cannot help people with ADHD. I will skip the end of my speech because I'm getting the red light. So just to round this up, While these wait lists grow and health boards shut down pathways, lives are being placed on hold and people are slipping fully into crisis and lifespans are being curtailed. We need to act. Conference, please support this resolution.
Thank you very much, Erin. And Conference, there are no cards in against Resolution 16, so can we pass this by clean, please? Thank you very much. We've had a good morning and we'll be all set for a great afternoon. So away and get fed and we will see you soon. 2 p.m. sharp, please.